Hello Game Boys and Game Girls, I'm the Game Boy Guru and welcome to another pickups video. And as you can see, I'm rocking the headset mic here because the audio quality on my last couple of videos has not been very good. I think that is due to the built-in microphone in my webcam, and so I'm not sure if it doesn't have the bandwidth or I don't know, I just can't get the audio adjusted properly to where it doesn't sound distorted and terrible. So in the meantime, until I can get myself either a proper USB mic or some other kind of better microphone setup, this is going to have to be the order of the day. But I thought I would show off all the stuff that I picked up today. Had a pretty good day out game hunting, and it is April 1st, but no, this is not an April Fool's episode. There's nothing in this episode that is fake or that I'm going to be showing off, saying, haha, I got this today or whatever, and then saying, April Fool's, I already had it. There are a couple of things I picked up that are duplicates, but otherwise, no April Fool's jokes today. So let's take a look. First stop that I made on the day was at Goodwill. That's usually my first stop when I go game hunting, because that is the store that is literally the closest to the edge of town that I get into when I drive down to the city to go hunting. And so I picked up a handful of things. First up is Star Wars Battlefront for the PS2. I believe this will be a duplicate. I've either got the regular edition or the greatest hits. I'll have to double check. I didn't look while I was there because I saw this and it was in good condition, so I just grabbed it. But Battlefront for PS2. Got a handful of original Xbox games here. So I picked up Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup. I believe I've got that for PS2 or possibly GameCube already. I grabbed Mercenaries Playground of Destruction, and I think that's a duplicate. I'll need to double check. I know these next couple are duplicates, and that is Star Wars Battlefront, and more excitingly, Star Wars Battlefront 2, which I know is worth a few bucks, so these will go into the trade pile. Picked up Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and then I also got Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the Platinum Hits version. And I've got the regular release, so this is nice to have the Platinum Hits version of this as well. I picked up one Wii game that I had never heard of, and this is Marines Modern Urban Combat, and it is a first-person shooter. I think it was quite possibly designed specifically for the Wii. And one of the cool things is, because it's a Wii first-person shooter, I would imagine like Ghost Squad and some of the others, that you can aim your targeting reticle with the Wiimote. So that's one aspect that I really liked in like Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition, for example. And it's something I'm looking forward to in games like Conduit and Ghost Squad and that sort of thing. So anyway, pretty cool. It's obviously military-themed FPS, so I'll have to give that a go. And the last item I found at the Goodwill was kind of an interesting one, and it is a plug-and-play Golden Tee game system. It's Golden Tee Golf Home Edition, and this uses either a 6-volt DC negative polarity adapter, which it did not come with sadly, or 4 AA's. So I may have to pull out some AA's. I've got a big stash of them somewhere. May have to pull some out and try this out, make sure it all works. But the trackball has decent action on it, and the buttons all press. Feels like it's probably going to work. On off seems to be switch seems to be functional, at least in terms of, it moves back and forth. So I'll have to give it a try. I was never really into the whole Golden Tee golf thing, but I know that in the arcades it's huge, and I want to say that Golden Tee Golf is quite possibly the best-selling arcade game of all time, even over Pong, Pac-Man, Galaga, stuff like that. Just because these machines are so pervasive, they're everywhere, and they have been everywhere for a long time. So anyway, kind of fun to find that at Goodwill, and so I'll give that a go. So that's everything from Goodwill. Stop number 2 on my way through town was Best Buy, and I picked up a couple of essentials at Best Buy. This one's not specifically gaming related, but some of you might appreciate it, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original 1990 film on Blu-ray. Big fan of this movie. I've got the original VHS release, and I have the initial DVD release that was in the sort of cardboard case with the black plastic flap snap thing over it. And so, cool to have this one on Blu-ray finally. We'll see if the transfer is decent, because the DVD transfer on that was decent, so we'll see if it looks okay on Blu-ray. And more importantly, the gaming-related item, I finally have myself a Switch Pro controller. I've been playing Breath of the Wild all month with just the Joy-Cons in the Joy-Con grip and a little bit handheld. I'll go into that when I make a follow-up video to my initial Switch pickups stuff. But I've been wanting the Pro controller because everybody I've heard online has said this thing is fantastic. I have no problem with the Joy-Cons and the Joy-Con grip. It's comfortable enough for me, and I've been having no issues playing Breath of the Wild. I've just kind of got used to it, and it plays really well. But I really like the fact that this has a D-pad. I really like the staggered analog sticks and how this is set up, and the fact that the analog stick and the buttons have some spacing between them. And so, anyway, looking forward to trying that out. Probably tomorrow. I'll have to charge it up tonight, but try and mess with that tomorrow. So that was stop number 2 on the trail. Stop number 3 was at a pawn shop, and I only got one item at that particular pawn shop, but that was a see-through blue PlayStation 2 controller. I've got a couple of aftermarket controllers, one nice Logitech wireless controller, and then a kind of okay GameStop branded wired controller. But I only ever had the original Sony black PlayStation 2 controller that came with the PS2 Fat that I got, and my PS2 Slim that I got later was just the deck. So it's nice to finally have a second official wired PS2 pad that I can use for my PS2. Stop number 4 was at the other pawn shop, and I did grab a few things there. Almost always grab something there. And so I got some 360 games. Never heard of this. It's Chrome Hounds, and the sticker says Fallout 3 because the actual Platinum Hits case that this came in was really torn up. And so they're really nice at the pawn shop. They let me switch cases out, especially when I'm buying these games complete. Because I'm a regular customer, they have no problem with me flipping things in and out of cases to get one that's nice. So never heard of this, but it looks like a kind of a cool mech versus tank game. And so anyway, we'll check that out. Looks like it could be fun. I got the Platinum Hits version of Left 4 Dead 2, and I have this on Steam. I got it as a free download when they were doing a promotion, and that's actually the reason I started my Steam account. But funny enough, I've never played it. I think partially because my PC is so old that I didn't want to chance it, but also I just haven't booted it up yet. I've played other games I purchased on Steam, but not this one. So maybe this will be the motivation I need to finally put some time into it. And also got Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. And I've heard of the Kingdoms of Amalur series or games before, but never played one, so we'll see what this is like when I get a chance to boot it up. I think maybe it's like an action RPG. Yeah, customize the action in some of the most intense and responsive combat ever seen in an RPG. So we'll have to see if that actually matches up to what that says. I also grabbed some PS3 games, except this is a bunch of games in sleeves, like you sometimes see when you buy the bundles. And so this was the God of War collection. So God of War 1 and 2 on disc, and God of War 3. I already have the God of War collection already. Of course, this one says includes the God of War Origins collection voucher. I would assume that's already been used, but I may try it anyway. God of War Ascension. So now I've got sleeve versions and boxed versions of those. And I also got Uncharted, the first Uncharted, Drake's Fortune, and Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, which is cool because I have two PS3 bundles. One of them came with Uncharted 3, and it's one that my boss bought as a machine to use for streaming media and stuff like that, and then do gaming and Blu-ray movies on the side. Well, eventually he figured out all he ever used it for was streaming, so instead he bought a Roku and sold his PS3 bundle to me for a really good deal. And so I have this copy of Uncharted 3 I've had sitting around. I didn't want to play it because I wanted to actually play the first two games in the series beforehand, so now I finally can. Stop number 4 was at the game store that I usually go to just about every time, and I got this lovely hard-shell Game Boy case that resembles a Game Boy. It even has this cool thing on the back that you can see says Nintendo Game Boy, as if that's a cartridge that you could pull out, and it's got the indentation like the cards do when you can grab it, and the little ribbing just like the battery cover has. But it's pretty cool. You open it up, and it has this nice foam protecting piece that's kind of glued in, and then it has this removable piece that comes out that can contain all your stuff. Now, I'm not 100% sure where everything goes. I'm assuming the actual Game Boy goes in this space, and then one of these spaces is probably specifically for an AC adapter maybe, or a couple of other things, link cable. There's a rack in here for games, and interesting thing about that is it pops out. So that's kind of cool that pops right out. But fun little case. I paid a little bit more for it than I probably should have, but as a connoisseur of all things Game Boy and a connoisseur of all things retro gaming in general, I decided that I wanted to pick it up. It's been sitting on the shelf for a long time, and I've kind of been debating whether I should grab it or not, since I already have an ASCII hardshell case that I showed off in an older video. But I finally decided to pull the trigger on that today. In addition, I got a bunch of Atari 2600 stuff, a whole bunch for my buddy Zag Norch, who I'm sure will be watching this and salivating over all the 2600 games that will be coming his way soon. But let's go through them all. We got Popeye. We got Dodgem. Mega Mania. Robot Tank. Oink, which I've heard of but never played. Brain Games, which uses the keyboard controllers that I picked up for him last time. We got Space Attack. Wizard of War. Notice the WOR. Got Omega Race. Crystal Castles. A couple of these are for me, but most of this is for him. This Amadar is for me, I believe. I picked that up for me. He wanted Turmoil. We got, this one was for me. This is Lock and Chase. I grabbed that for me because I've got the Game Boy version, but not the 2600 arcade port. We got Towering Inferno, and I got 2 copies of that because I wanted one as well. Thought that was a pretty good deal on that. Got a game called Nexar. Had not heard of that one before I saw it in the store. I grabbed a copy of Breakout since I recently got the paddles. We got Armor Ambush, Dark Cavern, and then I grabbed a copy of Firefighter for me, so I could have that. And then I did grab one Game Boy game while I was there, the only one that I technically didn't have. It's Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle 2. I already have it, but I have the million seller version rather than this initial release that doesn't have the little million seller ribbon emblem on it. I'm not specifically collecting Game Boy variants. I'm kind of just going for a full non-variant set. But at that price, I figured it's probably worth grabbing because it's in really good shape. And the label is pretty well flawless. So that was the 4th stop of the day. The 5th stop was at the other game store. No, actually the 5th stop was at, the 5th stop was at the other game store, and I grabbed a whole bunch of cool stuff there. Let me get a couple of these things out here. I grabbed a couple of loose games here. I got Cosmic Creeps for the 2600. I grabbed Wampum on the NES, which I wanted to grab at the other game store when they had it in their case, but by the time I decided I was gonna go for that, somebody had already purchased it. And so I don't know if this is the same copy that somebody played and then sold back to the other store, or if this is if more than one person in the area purchased Wampum and decided to trade it in. But whatever the case, now I finally own a copy. So glad to have that. I also, and I'm going to get into a little bit of a tangent here, but story time. I also grabbed Ninja Shadow of Darkness for the original PlayStation. This is one of the games that I bought when I first got my original DualShock PlayStation. I started off, I had a handful of games. This is one of the earlier titles that I bought. And when I got my PlayStation, I got the standard Sony gray DualShock pad that came with it. And then I also bought this blue aftermarket Mad Catz controller. And I made the mistake while I was playing this game of primarily using that Mad Catz pad because it was a little bit more ergonomic than the Sony pad, I thought, at the time anyway. And I kind of like the action on the analog sticks. This is a 3D action game with some platforming elements, and at the time, this was very, very difficult, like Ninja Gaiden NES difficult, and I got highly, highly frustrated by this game. The 3D platforming in this game is not great, and I remember a lot of deaths just because it was easy to misjudge jumping from one little bridge section to another and falling into the water. Why a ninja can fall into the water and die, I have no idea. But anyway, it was one of those crazy things. But this game made me so mad one day that I can ashamedly say that I broke the Mad Catz pad. I was having problems with it anyway, and it wasn't a great controller by any means, but I was having problems with it, and I got so frustrated that I threw it on the floor. And of course, in a carpeted room, I kind of threw it, and it landed face down. It caught one of the sticks, and it popped off the actual stick, sort of the it popped off the top sort of mushroom head of the stick, and subsequently broke it off. That was the end of that pad, and that was the end of this game for me. I traded it along with a couple of other games that I did not get along with very well. One of them being the PlayStation port of Glover, and the other being Siberia for the Sega Saturn, which I deeply regret now because it's become harder to find and costs more now than when I bought it way back when. But I finally reacquired a copy of this, and so I'm going to have to try this again and see if it's as frustrating as I remember, or if, because I had kind of got back into gaming at that point, after having not gamed for a while, if maybe I'll find this is easier because I've been consistently gaming and playing some difficult games now for the last few years. So anyway, a little bit of a story to that one. At the same game store, I also grabbed some boxed games, and this was a real treat for me to find these. I got several Atari 2600 games and one other deal. So I got Chopper Command on the Atari 2600, which is one of my favorites as a child. My next door neighbor had this, and we spent loads of time with Chopper Command. I got Sequest, which I don't remember if he had this one or not. If he did, it wasn't one that we played a lot, but cool to find that at such a good price. Paid more for this one than I probably should have, but I got Pitfall complete in box. I'm sure there are scads of these around, but since it's a little bit more high-profile title, I'm sure that it was priced that way. So a little bit of a sticker there that didn't completely come off, but cool to have that boxed. I also have another one of my favorite 2600 games from childhood was Demon Attack. I love the cool warp effect of the enemy ships as they and come into the screen, and it's a really cool sound effect that they did on the 2600 there. And this is kind of interesting that this sort of pulls out from the bottom. There's no actual bottom flap, and it's just a little tray with the game in there. So there's the cartridge, and interesting thing here, I got the Demon Attack manual, which looks like it's missing the, oh nope, I guess it's not, the Demon Attack manual, but for some reason someone also included an instruction manual in here for Slither on the ColecoVision. So I'm going to have to find a copy of Slither so I can match it with this manual. But pretty cool. Again, one of those favorites from childhood that my next door neighbor and I played a ton of, because he had this, and we spent a lot of our time early on playing some of these 2600 games. The other great game that I found in the box, if I can get this one back in the box all the way, is Zaxxon for the ColecoVision. And I thought I had the cart and the manual for this, but it turns out I only have the cart. It was one of the games, if you remember the video that I did when I showed off the ColecoVision, this is one of the games that came with the ColecoVision that I bought, that had a whole stack of games and manuals. And so cool to have this one in the box. This is another one that we spent a lot of time on, or I spent a lot of time on as a kid. I had a neighbor kid who had Zaxxon on his C64 and played some of that, and then also played the 2600 version at some point. This plays more like the C64 version, looks and sounds more like the C64 version, just because the graphical capabilities of the ColecoVision are over and above what the 2600 could do. So that is the other independently owned game store. And the final stop that I made today was at GameStop, and I grabbed another Switch game, and that is Has Been Heroes, and I believe the physical version of this is a GameStop exclusive right now. That might be ongoing as well. But I wasn't quite sold on this game, but I've heard some good things about it, and for the price that they're asking, I thought it was probably worth picking up. I'm still heavily into Breath of the Wild. Haven't finished it yet. Still probably have quite a few hours of gameplay left before I put it away, and maybe wait until later to buy the DLC, the extra missions and stuff. But I decided to go ahead and pick this up. I know it's kind of a disease now that I'm buying all these games. I haven't bought all the Switch games yet. I don't have 1-2-Switch. I don't have Just Dance. Just Dance would be one of those that I eventually pick up at a pawn shop or Goodwill or something for a couple of bucks, because I looked at that today and was like, who are these artists and what are these songs? I don't know any of these things. And 1-2-Switch I'll probably pick up eventually, but I may wait until that comes down in price just a bit. But Has Been Heroes. And then the other fun thing that I grabbed, and this is story time again, this is the Mad Dog McCree Gunslinger Pack for the Wii. And fun thing about Mad Dog McCree is I distinctly remember playing this game, the original Laserdisc arcade version of this, at Wall Drug, which is sort of like a tourist attraction. I think it used to be like a big pharmacy or something like that, or what have you, but it's basically just a tourist trap at this point. And anyway, it was one of those things that my mom and dad took my brother and I to while we were on vacation, and one of the stops that we hit on the way to or from someplace. But I distinctly remember my dad seeing that, and my parents were never real keen on giving me money to play a game, but my dad kind of had a thing for westerns, and when he saw that, he thought, okay, that's neat because it's full video and all of that, and so he kind of humored me. It was a bit expensive. I think it was $1 to play at the time, and when this game came out, I was probably 10, 11, 12. And so that was expensive at that time for an arcade game, because at that time still pretty much every arcade game was still $0.25 to play. But it was fun. I only lasted a few minutes, but it was fun, and I remember distinctly kind of enjoying the cheesy B-movie acting and the white long hair bearded character who was sort of the narrator and the guy who was like your guide or your cheerleader or whatever. I distinctly remember enjoying those aspects of the game, but I've never owned a version since then. That's come out on the Sega CD, and it's been on a couple of other systems, but I've never owned one. So cool to have this. This also has Mad Dog 2, the Lost Gold, and the East Bounty Hunter, which I'm assuming is either by the same company or related to that. But of course, with the Wiimote, you can aim just like you do with a light gun in the original Laserdisc version. So fun to have this, and I'll pop this in at some point. This will be one of those fun games that a buddy and I, when we get together and game on the weekend, can pop in and just play and laugh, because it's such a cheesy laugh riot, this game. And so that'll be fun to mess around with some weekend when he comes over. All right, that's all I've got to show you for today. Let me know what you guys think. Which games of these besides Mad Dog McCree and Ninja Shadow of Darkness should I try first? do any of you who got Switches, have you guys tried the have you been able to find a Pro controller yet, or did you order one and get it online? And what do you think of it? Is it fun? Have you messed with it much? Have you got a chance to use it? And anyway, anything else in here that I should be thinking about playing right away, like Uncharted maybe, or one of these Xbox games, or any of the 2600 games that I'm keeping for myself? Anything? Let me know in the comments below. And in the meantime, thanks for watching, thanks for playing, and game on.